I'm Lucas McCann, your host, and with me today we have an exciting guest, founder of Intero Advisory, Colleen McKenna. Welcome, Colleen.
Great to be here, Lucas. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. I'm looking forward to getting into this. We did sort of a pre-call to this, and we should have recorded that because there was all sorts of good stuff, and I think we're going to have to cut ourselves off today because there's so much we could talk about here. But I thought, Colleen, you'd kick us off today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your career path in how you found associations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I come out of sales and marketing, and I've spent quite a long time in that area in the Baltimore, D.C. Metro, and started Intero Advisory 12 and a half years ago after coming out of the printing world, and started Intero really thinking I was going to be more of a HubSpot reseller and really get involved in content. And people started asking me to help them with LinkedIn. Like, you seem to know a little bit more than the average person about LinkedIn. Show us what you know. And what I learned is I thought there was a real opportunity. In 2011, LinkedIn was just hitting its tipping point, and worked with a lot of networking groups throughout Baltimore, DC, Mid-Atlantic, and that grew to national. And people would say, hey, can you train my team? Can you write my profile? Can you help us recruit? I'd be like, yes, 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 yes. And so over the last 12 and a half years, we've stayed focused on LinkedIn and working with organizations to help them elevate their presence on LinkedIn for branding, recruiting, and business development. And that found its way into the association space through a very good friend, mutual friend of ours, Sean Soth from PAR. Mm-hmm. And I worked with him last year and did some webinars, and I was like, wow, this is such a great group of people and very mission driven. And one of the things that really stood out to me about associations, because they're so mission driven, they have such a fabulous story to tell about themselves individually and then about their organization through LinkedIn. And so many miss that opportunity, right? Yep. And I was like, wow, what if you did this on LinkedIn? Or what if you showed up this way? Or what if you tell a little bit more about yourself and then weave that into your why, right? Why is your why related to the why of the organization? And suddenly people's LinkedIn profiles look a little bit more interesting and they attract people to them, which is really the goal. How do you build that network? So I really found that especially those that are in revenue areas in associations, fascinating. Mm-hmm. They've got a great story to tell, and I want to help them tell that story.
Yeah. Well, why LinkedIn? There's lots of platforms out there, right? There's Twitter, which is hybrid business, personal maybe sometimes. There's Instagram and Facebook, and now there's Threads and all sorts of stuff. And why LinkedIn?
Well, I come out of B2B. It's what I've always known. It's what I was most comfortable with. I took a deep dive into some social media platforms very early on because I had teenagers, and so I had to be 10% smarter than they did. So I figured out a little bit about Facebook and how to work it and all of that. It really, actually, professionally, that was not my interest. My interest was in, wow, if as I'm sitting in an office in 2004, 2005, and I get on this thing called LinkedIn, I'm like, if this hit its tipping point, this could be game changing for B2B professionals. And that's what I knew. That's what I was really interested in. I took young sales teams in 2008, 2009. They had no networks, and we turned them into revenue generating professionals that outsold seasoned professionals. So tested it, spent a lot of time in it. I was also a believer from the very beginning that you had to specialize in one platform because they're all so different. They're very, very nuanced. And, I said that back then, I say it today. They are so, so sophisticated that when my advice to a CEO or a leadership team is, hey, if somebody says they can handle all your channels, you probably want to run from that conversation because no one, unless you have a team, can manage all of these multiple platforms. They certainly can on a high level, superficial, but not deep, not getting really, really ingrained. So
There's some
I
tools
just
that
happen to
there's
like
some
it.
tools that can kind of aggregate the distribution across channels, but I think you lose maybe some of the specificity of that platform, right? There's a little bit different of tone to each platform.
Right. And their algorithm works just a little bit differently, and how you build connections, how you talk. It's just different. And I've worked with a lot of CEOs, and early on, CEOs would, be on a call with me, or, be in person. They'd have their arms crossed and they'd say,
Just
I
turned
hate
off.
social media.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I can show you that this is a business tool and not social media, can we have a conversation? And literally, by the end of the conversation, their nonverbal had changed. They were open-minded. They were like, oh, I didn't understand the power of it. I just got off the phone with a CEO in Chicago, and he was like, I think I just know 10%, and I think it's amazing. And we all need to be utilizing it and leveraging it better. So that's why my sign says it's business, not social, right?
I love it.
Like, that's been our anchor ever since. And I'm always sort of, not in a negative way, correcting, but just reminding people that, again, let's use this as a business tool, just like HubSpot, just like Salesforce, just like any of the other business tools you have in your toolkit.
Yeah, I was one of those CEOs. I was late to the LinkedIn game, and I always just viewed it as, well, this is my resume. If anybody ever wanted to know what I've done, where I've been, where I am currently, or that's another means to reach out to me, it's up there. And I missed the opportunity, again, early on, to use it as a connection tool, use it as a means. I mean, I don't think there's any greater way to distribute your own personal, authentic content for free. All right? I mean, you can reach thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people with little effort, and there are people out there reaching tens of millions. It's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And that sort of speaks to which product are you on, which version of LinkedIn are you on, right? So the free version, which probably 80% of people are on the free version, they don't pay anything for LinkedIn. I think they get a huge benefit, right? They can build this fabulous platform, tell their story, put content out, build an amazing network, connect with people they wouldn't normally find in their immediate, area. However, when it's free, you are the product, right? So you got to put up with some noise in your feed, and you get some things that you don't always like, and it's just the way it is. So then you could move to premium, and premium is the first upgrade. And then there's Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter, and something called Sales Insights. So we typically recommend for our clients, especially if there's a BD focus or even a light, recruiting effort, and they're not doing enough recruiting to warrant buying and investing in LinkedIn Recruiter. We are big fans of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And I don't earn a penny from LinkedIn for talking about Sales Navigator. I wish I earned just one penny.
Yeah, there's no ad across the bottom of this, and there won't be any links to join Navigator in our comments section on YouTube. No.
However, Sales Navigator is an amazing tool and really starts to change the game on LinkedIn, because all of that noise that people have been talking about, especially over the last couple of years with the proliferation of automation, is not found on Sales Navigator. It's all data.
Wow.
It's all data, and you organize by companies, by accounts. So for business development, it is an incredibly powerful tool.
It's true. I mean, intrinsically, it makes sense that it weeds out the bots or I don't know what the numbers are, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fake accounts or just, fake profiles, right, that people create for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, LinkedIn removed 20 million last year that they found.
I wasn't even close. Yeah.
20 million. And, they're just always coming up. There's, again, so much automation. I would be remiss if I didn't say we are really anti-automation on LinkedIn. I get emails every single week, multiple each week, saying, hey, I think I can help you with LinkedIn lead generation. And I probably need help with lots of things. Hopefully that's not among them. So those are automated messages, and I don't know if they're real. Again, I don't accept everybody that sends me a connection request if there's no context for that.
Yeah, so how important is, so I get a lot of those messages as well. Some people are just wanting to connect. Some
Right.
people connect and it's cringeworthy. They go right into the pitch. Their very first direct message is, let me tell you about all the things that, I can do if you buy my product. I mean, what's the strategy on I just want to connect with somebody. I want you to be part of my network. I like your content, and I think this would be a great opportunity down the road, maybe, if we get to know each other, if you will.
Yeah, we're big on personalization of that initial connection request, right? Again, setting the context. I feel as though when we create context for ourselves, our organizations, and then we personalize as much as possible, we create a better experience, not only for ourselves, but for the person receiving it. And again, no selling on LinkedIn. The ultimate goal is a business development opportunity, potentially only 5% of any addressable markets ever in a ready state to buy. So
There you go.
continual awareness, right? We always want to work from awareness to then consideration, then potentially conversion. So we've got to create trust. Just like you wouldn't walk up to somebody in person and say, you want to hear everything I do and offer? You wouldn't. Why do that on LinkedIn? I understand, though, why over the last 3 years it has become as noisy as it has, because sales professionals have to be selling. And for a good part of the last 3 years, they haven't been able to get out in front of people. There have been no events. And so as I remind leadership teams all the time, you need your sales professionals to be out doing what you say bothers you when other people do them. So we just do need to keep that in mind. We have to be creating connections and, again, that context. So what's interesting is I will actually share something that we've been noticing lately, which is testing message, whether somebody, when they get a message, is there a higher connection acceptance rate versus when there's no personalization. And we have enough data that shows personalization always outperformed non-personalized messages. What we've seen recently is that flip a little bit. And it's almost because we're starting to wonder, is it because people are just not even really reading that personalized message in that connection request? And they're just thinking, is that just another automated message? So
it does cross your mind, right? When that happens, because there is so much automation on the back end of it. I've connected with people that, I like their content. I reached out to them. I sent connection requests, and they've set up automation that says, well, I'm away from it right now. It was obvious. I'm away from my LinkedIn right now, but if you want to learn more, here's, go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter. And it was clearly automation. It was
right.
A little bit of a turnoff, right?
Yes.
To your
Yes.
point. On the personalization side of this, and I'm dying to ask on the there's a balance, right, between being personal and authentic and being businesslike. And so, what is your take or philosophy on? Hey, I'm at the beach and I just took a picture, and for some reason I feel like my network should see this, and I can get both sides of this, but what do you typically recommend?
So
It's a big topic.
I can talk about this from both sides. Let me, I'm a LinkedIn purist is what I would consider myself. And in the early days of LinkedIn, it was using content to build credibility, show subject matter expertise, convey knowledge, add value. And that has definitely swung in a very different direction. There's still a lot of that, but there's less of that. Part of that has been this infusion and weaving in of our personal lives and our professional lives from working remotely, right? So I get some of that. The latest updates in the last probably month to 2 months is the algorithm is changing once again, because it's always changing and we're really never in pursuit of it because that's somewhat futile. But the algorithm, LinkedIn is saying, ooh, there seems to be too much of this personal stuff. We do want you to use LinkedIn to communicate, to share, but again, add value to your network. So when somebody asks us, and they ask us all the time, what should we be sharing? What should I share on LinkedIn? That depends on your network. And that depends on how you qualify and define value. But to me, value is, hey, I'm going to give you something that you could potentially think about, use in your professional world, right? So I'm going to always lean on really good content that's substantial and that does convey value. Now, however, when we do a team day and we take a picture of our team and we put it out there, or I do an anniversary post, our last anniversary post that I did, vanity metrics, absolutely, but it had over 11,000 views, like a couple hundred comments. So people like that, right? Because people like people. So I think it's this balance of how do I look, how do I sound professionally conversational at all times on LinkedIn, and how do I appear professional and human without getting too much information, too in the weeds, right? Like I don't need to see all of that. It doesn't faze me because I just keep scrolling. It doesn't make me. I don't stop for that.
I do see some though that overdo it though. All right, I like a little bit of mix in there personally and professionally in the feed. I like to see what my connections that I don't get to see all the time. This is our digital relationship, if you will. Professionally, I can keep up. And a little bit personally, I can keep up. And in the association world specifically, I love when CEOs get on the road and they go take shots with their members, and it helps connect in that world a lot of, okay, our industry is on the move, our industry cares, and that is personal and professional, right?
Yeah. I think you can really balance it. I was talking to somebody this morning and they were saying, there's somebody in my network and they're like sharing TikTok videos on LinkedIn and there's music with them. That person's just looking for a following and talks a lot about their metrics, right? But are they vanity metrics? How much of that actually converts into real business? And I think that's where we sort of have to understand that personal branding aspect. What's our goal for LinkedIn? And how can we, again, convey who we are? Be very authentic. If you're authentic, if you're that big personality, that's going to come off way more authentic than somebody who's a little bit more under the radar or more of an introvert and they're just doing it because somebody told them, hey, you know what, you should do this on LinkedIn. So it really does go back to I always say, what's your comfort level? Tell me your comfort level, and then I'm just going to push a little bit further, right? I just need you to go a little bit beyond that and be okay with that and see where it goes. So it's a lot of comfort.
So if my comfort level is a 0, right? I don't want to get on there. I don't think that what I have to say has value, or I just don't want to put myself out there. Is the strategy everybody should be out there at some level, even if you're going from a 0 to a 2?
Yeah, I think that every person has a value that they bring to their organization, right? And to themselves. So first, use it as a career asset, right? And think about it that way, because 75% of people will be found for their next position through their network. So the network is really important, the people you surround yourself with. I think being out there and for potential business development opportunities, recruiting opportunities. So many people are still facing a lot of recruiting challenges as organizations and associations, right? So if you're looking for a development person and you already have 5, I bet those 5 development people have a network with at least a few more development people in them. So those networks become really, really important. The connectivity of the association really can be extended so much further for so much more good. One of the things I definitely want to bring up, Lucas, is I was speaking to a group of association professionals last fall, and one of the things that I asked the audience, how many of you encourage your members to add LinkedIn to their profiles? And it was like silence. It was so quiet. It was like, I was like, did I ask the wrong question? And then you'd see a couple people, but if there were 100 people there, it was there was less than a dozen people that raised their hands. And what was funny is that people came up afterward and said, oh my gosh, I was like text messaged I was sending messages back to the office saying, do we do this? Because I'm like, that is such a great idea. Number one, they all start to, in some way promote your association from their profiles. They're vested in your association. They're a member, they're a sponsor, they're, a speaker, they're any number, board member.
They're paying, they're volunteering, they're on committees. Yeah.
And so imagine how much greater presence an association can make by just making sure that people were saying, hey, when you're a new member, just add us to your LinkedIn profile. Here's how. Easy. So easy. But so much greater. That's like such a great PR tip. Hope somebody takes that and uses that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let us know if you do.
I'm going to do it. Well, LinkedIn's going to be on my profile and everywhere. It's on my signature line. Mm-hmm. As an organization, we encourage everybody to be out there in the industry and sort of just pursuing connection. In fact, we had an annual strategic initiative of pursuit, and it was pursue connection. Yeah. By any means necessary. Get out there, visit people, message somebody. And there were a lot of folks that hadn't spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. And I think there's a low bar of, hey, just direct message somebody that you were thinking about them, that you liked a piece of content. I mean, there's a simple reaction button that if you don't want to even go beyond the thumbs up, you can just click and move on. It's an easy entry point. And then I think you have to sort of snowball it into what it is that you want to get out of it. I really like, we've talked in before the show, and you mentioned, sort of have a goal. Start with what do you want to get out of this asset, and what do you want to get out of this resource, and then start to funnel everything through that lens, and be cognizant about that.
Yeah, and everybody has a different starting point. And to your point, a reaction, a like, then move to a comment. Mm-hmm. A repost with thoughts. So comments, reposts with thoughts give you more reward from LinkedIn. They reward that more than just a like and a reaction, right? So start to put your point of view in there on that comment or that repost with thoughts. And my favorite button among that bar of buttons and options with content is something called send. Right? So I can send you a message, and if I actually wanted to make sure that post or that blog post or that article or that event, that webinar, that invitation gets to you, the closest I can get to making sure it gets to you is by sending that as a direct message. Mm-hmm. Right? And just wanted to make sure you were personally invited. And I think if, as an association, when you're thinking about your meetings and events and those webinars, imagine if a couple of people on the team just did that to 15, 20 people in their network. Will that raise the bar? Will that raise the attendance? These are super practical tips that do make a difference for people. And it's just pressing one more button. Just press one more button.
Easy. We do that internally. Try to send those messages, or you can create a group of people that you want to, send it to, like the other platforms. And even if it's some just really good piece of content that you liked, it could be a quote, it could be anything. I think it's just, it gets you familiar with the platform and engaging. And absolutely.
Yeah. Can I pick up on that for one minute and just say, there's also this idea of creating pods on LinkedIn. Pods, LinkedIn does not like pods. Pods are not not in the top 10 of things to do on LinkedIn. And the pod sometimes, and people call me, and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm part of this pod. What do you think?" And I'm like, "How's it working for you?" Because LinkedIn actually gets it, and if it's people in different industries, is that actually adding value to your network? So you're talking about a group of people who are connected, and I want to make sure that we distinguish that from where we're just creating these pods, and it's more amplification that is automated, because you're like, if this post comes up, you've got to ping everybody in your network within 10 hours or something. So we want to be, again, careful of these tools that are just a little bit more than LinkedIn's looking for from.
How do you recommend the balance of quantity and quality? And by that, I mean, there's some schools of thought that say, I got to get to 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 connections and followers versus I just want to have 2,500 people that are really close, that I'm connected with that I want to reach, and that's my goal?
Yeah, that's such a really great question. And my answer really has never in 12 and a half years changed on that for me. So again, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to create and be a voice on LinkedIn, an influencer, somebody who just has a lot of connections and be all over the place, that's great. Go for it. From the very beginning, I never wanted to create my network that way. I didn't want just another address book. And most of our clients don't want that either. So considering that when I started in Tarot Advisory, there were probably 10 of us in the world doing this kind of work. And now there's thousands. I probably have the smallest network, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And the reason is that I built that network to really become more of a referral engine, and where there's more engagement, where I'm like, oh, I know that person. Oh, that person was, in a session that I did. So I've built my network a certain way for the growth of our business, and that's worked for us. That works for the types of clients that we work with. In the association world, I think that's a better fit than just having a whole lot of people, because LinkedIn looks at the relevancy of your network too.
Yeah.
So again, going back, a recruiter, they could have a very, very large network. It's a database for them. Their networks are typically closed, and they just need to make sure that when they're doing a search for a particular job, they get a lot of good results that are already within a closer part of their network, first or second level connections.
Yeah.
So CEOs, if you have 200, 500 great connections that are really trusted advisors and good people, hey, that's great.
This is maybe a silly question, but the profile picture, right? It's the top left-hand corner of everybody's page. It stands out. Typically, that's how we read. It's the first thing we look at. Some people still don't have one. And I'm sure my producer, Casey, is going to fire me because for those who aren't on video watching the show, I'm wearing the same color shirt as it is background, which is probably a no-no because I look like a floating head, but it is what it is at this point. What is the general strategy with the profile picture, and when do you go into the video category on your profile picture?
Yeah, so those people that have had a video, like that cover piece, I think actually LinkedIn is moving away from that. I just read something not too long ago. Most people didn't realize it was there. They actually launched that in 2020 because so many people had lost their positions. And it was really designed for those people in need of a job to be able to kind of talk about who they were for recruiting situations. And however, LinkedIn profiles should be updated. You should be the only person in that photo. It should be as professional as possible, although that's been a challenge for some to get professional photographs over the last couple of years. So I've simply said, get a new iPhone, or pretty much everybody has an iPhone that takes good pictures now. Go outside and take some newer shots. We typically look younger, even though we're older, with a newer photo.
Okay.
So men, I've typically said, ooh, when was the last time you wore a tie?
Feels like years, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe don't wear a tie. Wear what you would wear in front of a client. I do reserve the right to be one or two hair colors behind and a pair of glasses behind, right? Because I change my hair color every once in a while. So, I need to have a little bit of grace there. But it is an important element. Most people who, when their photo doesn't show up, they actually, at least the people I'm talking to, say, oh, I do have a photo. They don't have the settings set correctly. They have it only set to all LinkedIn members. And you know what? That means unless we're connected, I can't see your photo.
Oh, that was a mystery just solved.
So a lot of times people will say, oh, my photo's there. I'm like, okay, let's just go change the setting. It'll take 5 seconds. Now you show up.
What is the most underutilized part of when you have a new client and you're looking at their profile? What's typically the first piece that people are missing out on that has the biggest impact?
An about section, a good headline and an about section. A lot of times people only have their title and company name, the association in that headline space. And that really does allow you to add some keywords, a value proposition, a mission statement. Just again, start keywording from the top. And also that about section. If people don't scroll all the way into the experience, the about section should summarize who you are. It should be you at 30,000 feet, so that if somebody doesn't scroll down into that experience section, they still understand who you are, what you do, the type of association that you work with and for. And that's important, because we look at a lot of LinkedIn profiles. I'm like, I have no idea what this person does or what their association represents, or I'm confused. In the association world, with all those acronyms, spell those acronyms out at least a couple of times, because those are great keywords typically, but the acronym doesn't help.
So I'm glad you used that word, the keyword specifically. When I think of keyword, I think of your SEO strategy on your website. I mean, how important and how should we be thinking about keywords as it relates to our profile? Because I don't think that's typically something that people who aren't trying to be influencers think about.
Yeah, it's important because, again, it's telling LinkedIn's algorithm who you are. So they can see the companies, they can see job titles. Well, that gives them some idea. But sometimes people's roles are very nuanced. Their experience is very, very nuanced and very technical or in-depth. And so by sharing that information in narrative form, it gives you an opportunity to think about, how am I telling LinkedIn more about who I am so they can line me up with the right potential connections, right? Or job opportunities. So it really is something people need to be more thoughtful about, in my opinion. And I like to talk about LinkedIn profiles, turning them into marketing and recruiting tools rather than just online resumes. If somebody's looking for a job, it's going to be more online resume for that period of time. Once they move into a new association, it really, think about the audience. Well, who is the audience? Write your LinkedIn profile for your number one key audience.
Yeah.
Then I like to introduce, let's say in this case, the association. So about the person first, and then maybe a couple of sentences about the association. So because usually in those couple of sentences, there are good keywords woven into those about us sentences or a paragraph that help on that SEO piece.
Yeah, we use it as a recruitment tool. I mean, it's almost become a primary source. I would say we've used lots of platforms in the past, but it has become, and using those keywords, that's why I specifically wanted to kind of press in on that, because we look for association executive. We look for, if we're looking for business development plus association, to sort of recruit within the industry. It helps in the association industry. It helps to have some experience as an association executive or with the industry. So it's become our primary source. I mean,
yeah, I would say that most people now are using LinkedIn to go find people that they need to recruit, right? So rather than just putting a job posting out and waiting to see who applies, use LinkedIn. At its core, it's a database. Over 900 million people. You don't need 900 million people, but you can start to say, these are the people I'm looking for, then see how you're connected, see how you might start a conversation, how you might move them into your network. And even if that person isn't interested in making a move today on the recruiting side, when that position or another similar position comes up 6 months from now, it's good to maybe know that person, revisit that conversation.
Yeah,
so there's so many ways to look at that. So taking the time to build those profiles so they're meaningful. And if you're in an association, let's say of 100 people, you have your corporate association website, so you're that as the hub, and you have 100 individuals who work in the association, and they each have a LinkedIn profile. That's like having one website and 100 microsites that typically then can lead back to the website. So from an organic SEO perspective, LinkedIn is a very strong driver.
And the price is right. Again,
And the price is right. It's free.
you could achieve the same goals for tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing, but I just have yet to see sort of the opportunity again to distribute content, connect with people in an authentic manner that is real, and I'll say validated and authenticated to a degree, minus the bots. But once you're sort of on there and established, ideally, I also start to see that the algorithm is starting to look for authentic content.
Yes.
How it reads that, it's beyond me. It's not my role in this world. But it starts to sort of read through and weed through. And I like to believe that it can weave out things like automation and automated content.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, LinkedIn's been really looking at developing generative AI for since 2015 or beyond, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Reid Hoffman,
Before ChatGPT,
yeah. I mean, Reid Hoffman, who was the co-founder of LinkedIn, is so deep in that world and brilliant. They're very smart on behind the scenes, and can definitely filter out. And it's important. You want to know where that content comes from, and you want to know that it's authentic.
Yeah, outside of having a LinkedIn Premium, or I'd pay for just the filter, and you should too. Is just pay for the filter to get the bots out and get all that out of the way. I mean, if I could wave the magic wand, that would be one of it. Just wave them all off the platform. But
yeah, I know. Me too.
What are some of the first questions that people ask you, or what are they trying to solve for when they come to Intero and they say, hey, Colleen, I'm really trying to solve for X?
Business development, more so today, really over the last 3-4 years. I need more prospects. I need to grow my business. I've not used this tool, but my friends told me that it's their number one way to drive business development. And you can use it, and it should be a part of your sales and marketing strategy. Absolutely. Deciding today that you want to be using it more effectively and more efficiently, which I applaud, doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It takes dedicated time and effort and building that presence. And a lot of people were like, can you just do it for us? And for some, we have that ability. However, I don't know who you may have had lunch with yesterday that could be your next customer, right? Or your next client. And so the business development sales approach really needs a lot of expectation setting, because again, these bots are saying, hey, I can get you 10 leads a week and help you grow your business by X, right?
Yeah.
And that is a completely spray and pray method. And so again, where we're taking our clients, let's go laser focused. Who are the top 10, top 20, top 50 prospects that you have for this year? Where is there more opportunity within your current client base where maybe it's a different business unit, a different group, and we can grow that business. So we're looking more laser focused than that spray and pray. So just having really honest, upfront conversations with people as much as possible and helping them manage expectations, because everybody's had a friend who's like hit it out of the park, and why am I not? Right? And so we need to, that just comes with a lot. It could come with the experience. Somebody comes out of has a different background, and so they have different credibility. So there's a lot that plays into what works and what doesn't on LinkedIn.
I think it goes back to a lot of it to what you said earlier, just trust.
Yeah.
The first interaction's never a sale. And sometimes the 12th interaction is not a sale. And what are you going to, if a sale is what you're after, what are you willing to give? Because a lot of people just walk up to LinkedIn with their hand out, assuming that if I get on here and I connect with 30,000 people, that they're just going to buy my stuff because they see it's so great. And at that point, why wouldn't you just stand up a bot and have do your sales? Because what's the difference? If that's all you're going to do and you're not going to give, why should you receive?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in the association world, there's so much emphasis on trust and mission, and so I think that there are ways, and there's sort of this inherent network that's already built, right? So how can you use the network and be what I call be a good social citizen on LinkedIn? Be the person that looks in your network and think about who can you introduce to one another. Because guess what? When you create that introduction, typically the first thing they do is talk about you. So how do you become that center of influence in your network? And I think that is incredibly important for people who are in business development and are sales professionals, because when people start to rely on you for your expertise and your network, and you can help them beyond what you just sell in terms of services and products, you're more of a trusted advisor, more of that consultant, and I think that's really helpful. So look for centers of influence and network with them, and become a center of influence in your own network.
I love that. And you touched on, sort of the inherent group. If I could wave the magic wand, I would like them to create those groups that are authenticated membership group only, right? There would be an opportunity within that platform to share the content that is member specific content. And you could wear the association sort of badge, as we've said, on your profile. And you say, I am an ABC member, XYZ member. I've been authenticated. And not only would that sort of give you the badge within the industry of people who are looking for profiles or for searching for a professional, a certified professional for a particular industry, it would also, from the association standpoint, have a new means of retention, right? I wouldn't want to give up my badge, just as nobody would want to give up their gold in or their blue bird or whatever it is. And so I don't want to stop paying my dues because I don't want to lose my group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How do we make that happen?
Well, I think they're kind of maybe moving in that direction just a little bit. Now people can verify that they actually work for that association. And I love this new verification component. So again, it's LinkedIn saying, we want to know you're real. We want you to be able to manage as an organization that these people actually do work for you. So I think an association could take that on and create some sort of campaign. Right? It could be a grassroots campaign more than anything. I don't know what makes it on LinkedIn's product map, but that sounds like it should certainly be on there.
Maybe one of them is listening. We'll see.
There we go.
Well, Colleen, I want to leave some mystery to Intero and have them come talk to you about how Intero Advisory could help them, and either personally, professionally, individually, or their organization, correct?
Sounds great. Yep, absolutely.
As you know, at the end of every show, is there somebody, Colleen, that you would like to refer, you think that our audience could benefit from hearing from?
Yes. So actually I have three people.
Okay.
Elizabeth Morris from an association called Kerr, and they're doing great work with undergraduate research. A very dear friend of mine from years ago, Megan Cohen, and she works for a association management firm, but she's been in the association world for a very, very long time. And Tom Egan from PMMI, which is a great association I've come to get to know and do some work with.
Well, thank you for that. I will go check out their profiles on LinkedIn and see if they're clients of yours. I'll be able to tell, I'm sure, whether it's all cleaned up and professional.
We'll see.
I could ask you 100 questions, and I probably will on a follow-up because I could talk about this stuff all day as I dabble in my own LinkedIn experience. But thank you, Colleen, so much for joining us on the show, and appreciate your time